I love telling the story of the Bruno curbsider lift I had installed in my Subaru Outback. Hey everybody, welcome back to another video on Love Disabled Life. For today's video, I want to talk about when I had a lift installed in the back of my Subaru Outback to accommodate my Pride GoGo scooter. At the time, I needed a new vehicle, but I also was using a GoGo, and they are too heavy for me to lift. So it became apparent that I needed a lift to get in and out of my car safely and efficiently. At the time, I was not wanting to get a ramp van. I really wanted to have a car, some kind of sedan or hatchback. However, when I started to go to mobility modifiers, they were all very skeptical that I could get a lift and a scooter in the back of anything, any kind of car, hatchback or otherwise. And they were really trying to push me into getting a van. However, my gut told me that there just had to be a way, and I just needed to be persistent and creative in figuring out how I can make this work. So what I ended up doing was I made a cardboard prototype of the scooter using relevant dimensions, and then I went to the Bruno website and I got the dimensions of the curbsider unit itself. And then I went to my local hardware store and bought just regular PVC and then made a prototype of the curbsider lift itself. And then the idea was to take the prototypes of the scooter and the lift, so the cardboard and the PVC, around to local dealerships to see exactly what would fit. We had narrowed it down to a few makes and models, and ultimately the Subaru Outback is what won. Now, as you can see in the video, it is a tight fit. There's not a lot of wiggle room, but at the end of the day, it did fit. But the challenge didn't stop there. Once I proved that I could get the scooter and the lift in the back of the vehicle, I then had to find somebody to install it. So again, I go back to the mobility modifiers who had, tried to turn me to getting a van in the first place. They weren't very enthusiastic about wanting to help me with this installation. But again, like earlier, I just kept at it and I kept asking questions. I started asking friends of mine in the disability community, and ultimately I got the name and phone number of a gentleman who was essentially an independent contractor. He had a van that he worked out of in addition to a small workshop, and he came highly recommended, but I don't think was very well known, which was lucky for me, which meant, he wasn't super busy. Once I got in contact with him, I think I needed to wait like 2 or 3 weeks. It took him less than a day. He did such a professional job. To install the curbsider, you need to drill into the trunk or the floor of the car. In my case, he also then cut a hole in the shroud. Mine actually sits on the false floor that covers the spare tire. So with all that and even the electrical work he needed to do to connect it to the power source, he did a beautiful job. I share this story not only as an example of good self-advocacy, but also I hope to give you some words of encouragement in case you're finding struggles getting something solved or fixed in your life. Whatever it is, big or small, don't give up. If you have a feeling that there's a way to get it done, just keep asking questions, network, get creative, prove the theory yourself if you can, like I did. I think if I had not made these prototypes, my story could have had a different outcome. And I really have enjoyed the years that lift has given me and the independence of using that car with the scooter. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I'll answer. So that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love for you to be part of the community. And like I always say, you may not love every day, but you should still love who's living it. Thanks again. Bye.